Hey friends, welcome to this live. Today I'm coming on without much preparation, as in I did not post the announcement of this live because for a little bit of time before that, I wasn't quite sure that I was going to make it, but I'm here today and I'm really happy that you're here too. My name is Elena Motonono, and I help online language teachers build sustainable businesses, moving away from one-to-one classes and having something completely different, teaching in a different way. And so in the live today, I'm going to tackle the question that I get asked a lot. It actually came up in one of my conversations yesterday about AI versus voice chats. So, if you have been following me, you know that I talk about teaching sustainably. And one of the ways to do that is by utilizing chats, voice chats, and also like regular chats. And depending on what you are teaching, you can also use Google Docs for that. And in fact, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to do a free class on how to teach through voice chats. If you're interested, there is a link in the description, and I really recommend that you come because everything I've learned up to this point about teaching through voice chats, including using the AI, which I will talk briefly about today, is going to be in that live class. And this is free, so it's a no brainer. I hope you sign up. So let's get to this idea of voice chats, teaching through voice chats, like a teacher teaching through voice chats versus a platform that is AI based. What is the difference? And how can we stand out? Because as we all know, when the voice chats try to, or rather, the AI is trying to sell the idea of teaching or learning language through voice chats, you may have noticed that the price is really low, right? So the price is something like $1 a month or $1 a day. I don't even remember. I just know it's super ridiculous and gets teachers really worried about, oh my gosh, now the AI is coming and they're taking my jobs. And first of all, before we get into this whole unraveling of who is taking our jobs, please remember that this is not the first time this is happening. So when the computers first were introduced, there was a lot of talk about how the computers are going to become this change for all the teachers, and nobody will need teachers anymore. And then we have platforms where you can learn through online courses, and again there was a repetition of that, the fear, right, that teachers had, well, we'll become redundant, nobody will need us, and what are we going to do? We need to find another job. And so now with the AI, it's the same thing. It's just a different circumstance that came our way. But because this is so new and everybody is so obsessed with Chat GPT and stuff, we think that, oh, now this is for real. Now the AI is coming and they're going to take our jobs. And so any conversation now about working or teaching languages more sustainably, not through one-to-one classes, but rather through voice chats, is now becoming sort of like this really difficult conversation because we have the AI that can do the same job. And if the AI can do the same job, the bots can do the same job, then what is the role of the teacher? And if you have asked this question, please know that you're not alone. A lot of teachers like really feel uneasy about that. So I'm here today to give you a few things to think about, from the standpoint of mindset, how to treat this, because usually if you do not approach that from the standpoint of how we think about it, then you will allow these circumstances of AI, and tomorrow it's going to be another Chat GPT, and then another. You're going to constantly be on edge and anxious about what's going to happen to my job. Am I going to lose all my students to the AI? There's no way I'm going to compete with a platform that charges $1 a month. There's no way that I can do that. And you don't need to do that. The AI has its place, and you have your place. And so if we are rooted in our place and we are able to see where we are, we don't actually have to fear any kind of app. Now, it does help us to understand what our unique selling point is and how we can communicate that. And I think from that perspective, it's great. Otherwise, we get really lazy and we think that just because I have a couple of diplomas and certificates and I put them on social media, people will come and hire me. But as you know, if you've tried doing that, that doesn't really work and doesn't work as well as we would have thought. So it's more than just posting our credentials. When we are teaching, when we are trying to find new students, it's less about our credentials and it's more about the value that we are bringing to our students. And all these new apps and new websites that supposedly are helping people learn a language, and maybe they are up to a certain point, all they're doing is helping us zero in on the value that we're providing and actually recognizing, yes, there is the AI. We are not avoiding it. It's here. It's going to be even more present, over time. But how can we work with it? How can we find and explain where the place of the AI is versus where the voice chats are? Well, the first thing that you need to realize when your student comes up to you and you offer them a text-based or voice chat-based program where they're practicing their speaking, and they obviously immediately get targeted by a Facebook ad that tells them that, oh, you can pay $1 a month. Why are you paying 200? Um, Here, the first thing that you can talk about is the idea that when you're teaching somebody a language, you are preparing people for communication with other people, not with bots. Now, this is a great way of looking at the situation. And actually, one of the teachers I talked to yesterday brought it up, which is true that when you are teaching your students communication skills, you're preparing them for the life in the real world. And the real world does not work like robots work. The real world has conversations that are fluid, that are not scripted, conversations that are, they can start at one point, then they can move to different point um, without a change of subject or or a change of tag or whatever. You just switch the conversation, and immediately your conversation partner understands what you're trying to say or where you're going, and then they're adjusting the topic of their conversation. So you are not learning a language to just learn a language and be able to say stuff. You are learning a language, or you are teaching your students the language, so that they are able to communicate, to show up as they are in another language, to show up as a beautiful human being and that has their own values and is able to express those values in another language. And the more plasticity they have in learning, which they are only able to do it with a human being, the more apt they will be to build diverse relationships in another culture and actually benefit from them. It's an incredible, incredible asset that you are giving to your students when you're teaching them to speak and when you're teaching them speaking through voice chats. This is not the AI that only has a certain number of formulas that work a certain way when you're entering or when it hears or picks up certain words. So when your student has hesitations about, well, this learning with voice chats, it's quite different. Yes, it is quite different, but it is not like learning with AI. Hey, Giselle, very nice to see you. So we are talking about AI, and if you have questions, you can actually put them in the chat. But the second issue that you can bring up when it comes to AI teaching and learning is that it offers people very little nuance. Language learning and language speaking, the more advanced you get, the more nuanced your language becomes. And while maybe on the basic level, if you just need to learn how to say or name objects in the room, the AI may be helpful to you. You may not necessarily need a teacher to tell you what the word for the table is in another language. But when you are moving away from the basics and going deeper, you are learning how to speak with nuance. And speaking with nuance is impossible with details, right? Is impossible when it's guided by the AI. You really need a human teacher, human interaction, a person who can guide you in the world of another language, right? In the world of another culture. You need a teacher who is going to um, help you find that nuance, identify it, notice it, and use it when appropriate. And so these expressions or these differences, especially granular differences in the language, once you get more advanced in language learning, are only possible when you are working with a real human teacher. And that's what you are actually paying money for. You're not paying money to become a parrot, to repeat after the AI certain words and just hoping that one day you will be able to repeat, I don't know, president's address or what. Um, you are learning with the teacher so that you are able to, again, reveal these granular differences and talk about them in a foreign language. So, yeah, the third thing is when you are having a conversation, a live conversation, uh, it is quite possible for you to kind of have these um, ebb and flow in the conversation, the lull. You start talking, then you kind of stop, you pause, you rethink, you change the topic of conversation, you switch, you do a lot of side notes, a lot of like, oh, off the topic kind of thing. And that's what makes your conversation come to life. And this is something that you can teach people through voice chats. When you give them one prompt and they talk about that, and something comes up, as a teacher, you're able to pick up on what's being discussed, right? You are able to say, oh, you mentioned this, and then you're able to move the conversation in that direction. And that is something that the AI is not able to do, like moving the conversation so that it's alive. It's not stagnant. It's not just like, okay, right now we're going to talk about sports and we're just going to exhaust all questions there are about sports. That is not how real conversations work. And I know that I'm probably telling you things that you are all aware of, but when it comes to selling and when it comes to describing the value of your offer, somehow we forget that the value of working with an individual is so much greater than working with a robot, right? And so I will be talking a lot more on the subject of how to teach through voice chats, how to teach through Google Docs in the upcoming workshop. And I will be talking a lot about that in the upcoming weeks. If you are here today and you're like, wow, I really want to be there, it's free. You can click the link in the description and sign up today. I am really looking forward to that. And finally, one final consideration when you are talking about teaching through voice chats with a real teacher, right? Working with a real teacher versus working with the AI. the AI is quite boring. It does not have a personality, which again, it almost sounds like cliche. Don't we all know this? But somehow we forget it. When we have a relationship and we want to have a relationship, right? Whether it's, friendship or romantic relationship, we're looking for a human being because as frustrating as it can sometimes be to have a relationship with a human being and get to know like a whole world other than your own, so you're learning your own world, you're learning the other world. It's so much more enriching than talking with a robot. Even though the robot is quite, um, I don't know, it's quite predictable what the robot is going to tell you. But when you're learning with the AI, you have this feeling of kind of boredom, which you're excited at first because it's so cool, it's so different, it's so almost like the person, and maybe you're like in it, and you're trying to even compare how this AI app is similar to, for example, a human being. Maybe you marvel at how far technology has gone, which I agree with you. The technology is way advanced. That is why I'm able to do this live and people are listening to me and watching me, through all over the world, which is incredible. And you can do the same thing, right? If you're teaching online, there is no gatekeeping anymore because of technology. But one way or another, the AI makes for a really boring teacher, a faceless teacher, soulless teacher. There is no teacher. It's just a program. And so it's important to bring it up to the student that you are working with or to your audience, for example, when you are trying to sell your products or programs and courses, and people tell you, well, how is this different from XYZ? Well, how is this different from the AI powered voice chats? And it is different. It is quite different. So I hope that in the short live or this short live gave you a lot of ideas and a lot of confidence to speak to your students about working through voice chats and learning the language, improving their language skills through voice chats, not just one-to-ones, and how they're going to be different. I mean, radically different from the AI, and why they want to choose you rather than the AI, even though the AI will cost them $1 a month. I mean, if they want the AI, that's fine. They can sign up for it, but they can also sign up to work with you. And it's going to be a huge, huge support for them on their language learning journey. Well, I hope this video helped you today. Thank you so much for being here, for your time and attention. I am looking forward to my upcoming live class where I will see you, maybe other teachers that you know that you will bring, teachers from other platforms. I'm so excited and I am looking forward to this time. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments and I will elaborate on this topic in my next live. Bye, everyone.